EvoCreo II is the long-awaited sequel to EvoCreo, a monster taming game that released for Android and iOS several years ago. Since then, fans have been awaiting the release of its successor, and now fast forward to 2025, and here we are. In today's video, we're going to be examining EvoCreo as a standalone game, as I have only played a little bit of the first one, nor is the original something you absolutely had to have played in order to enjoy this. We will be looking at the game mainly from three categories, those being the story, the gameplay and progression, and of course, the monsters themselves. All that being said, make sure to sit back, relax, and let's find out if EvoCreo II was worth the wait. Okay, so right off the bat, and this will likely be the shortest section of today's video because I don't want to incorporate any major spoilers, but you play as a recently graduated police cadet tasked with investigating a strange group of so-called Creo liberators known as Free Cognito, which draws a lot of comparisons to Team Plasma from the 5th generation of Pokemon, and are basically just PETA. These guys are up to some shady stuff under the guise of trying to make a better world for Creo, but end up being far less convincing than Plasma, and you basically spend most of the game traveling around the region, following their activity. And I will say that the main story events are serviceable, but the game does have a ton of optional content that you can interact with via the quest log system, and honestly, if you just forge through the main story while ignoring everything else, it'll end up taking away from the experience. That said, the story didn't wow me like other competitors such as Nexomon 2, but definitely does the job. Now, in terms of gameplay, I feel like the game is a bit of a mixed bag, but has a lot of potential. First of all, in terms of battles, I don't really have any issues from a single player perspective. The game is really easy to learn. Monsters have different moves that they can get access to, many of which can heal in battle, which is nice. The combat scenes and animations are pretty good, and all in all, I have nothing really bad to say about battles, as they're the game's strongest point. At a surface level, they seem pretty simple, but there is a lot of complexity under the hood, and there's no level cap for those who just want to go crazy. Now, when it comes to the overworld, however, I definitely have a few issues here that sometimes just make me want to put down the game, but could easily just be fixed with some quality of life updates. Firstly, the speed at which your character moves is essentially the walking pace from the original Pokemon games, but with a much larger world to explore. Playing the first two gens of Pokemon without the ability to run is already kind of annoying, but it feels 10 times worse in this game. There are also a lot of areas where there's a ton of grass and sand or any other type of terrain that spawns monsters, and these spawn rates feel quite high, coupled with that slow walking speed is just frustrating. One thing I will say that's really cool though, while we're on the topic of spawns, is that there are overworld spawns, which is cool when you enter a route. Now, also keep in mind that there are a couple things to mitigate this. You can increase your movement speed slightly, which still isn't enough in my opinion, and there is a tutor in the game that gives you the ability to mount some of your creatures. However, this is optional, and even then, it requires specific team building in order to accommodate this. Not any monster can be ridden, so even though it doesn't take up a move slot to learn how to mount, you have to have a specific mountable monster in order to do so. Furthermore, there are various roadblocks in the game, like what you might be familiar with from HMs from Pokemon. Again, they're not nearly as intrusive and don't require you to give up a move slot, but because there is a limited pool of which monsters can learn which abilities, like the ability to swim, ride, move boulders, etc., it ends up limiting your team building. Otherwise, you're going to have to keep going back and forth to the PC with that slow movement I just mentioned. On top of this, the only way to fast travel early on in the game is basically to buy it from the shop, which costs a currency, which you have to pay with real money for. Now, I get that the game's only $5 and would likely cost something like $15 or $20 to be more competitive with other full game releases like Cassette Beasts or Coromon's PC version, but when the traversal feels this slow already, and then on top of that, teleporting early on is locked behind a paywall, it doesn't feel great. Again, you get the ability to fly and teleport later, but this also comes with it its own limitations and annoyances, and are also part of optional content, which definitely shouldn't be. Now, in terms of monster designs and the art, I think that in battles, the art and monster designs look great, and even outside of battle, it's really cool that your lead party member will follow you around and you could ride various creatures. I love details like that. I wouldn't say that the game has the best designs in the genre or anything like that. I definitely appreciate them and think that they're good, and there are a wide variety of different specimens. And all in all, like I said, the pixel art's really good in battles, and I'd say decent in the overworld. It's not anything crazy. I think that games like Coromon and Cassette Beasts have better pixel art, but it definitely looks nice, and there are a wide array of creatures to collect. In fact, there's over 300. All in all, I'd say that so far, EvoCreo II is a pretty good game that falls short of being amazing due to some of the limitations I had mentioned. Overall, traversal is a really big problem in this game, and in my opinion, the world design makes this even more apparent, with many open areas that will oftentimes lead to dead ends, only for you to have to slowly walk back to where you originally were. And like I said, even with the ride ability, it's not that fast. I feel like if they were just to patch in some better speeds and lower the encounter rates a bit, it would be a lot more enjoyable. The battle system and visuals that go alongside it feel pretty crisp. The story, while not revolutionary, is definitely serviceable, and as I've stated previously, I think it's pretty good. One thing that you should note though is that there are some glitches in the game. I've been soft locked in the PC, which can be really annoying, so definitely keep that in mind too. I think if the developers implement some updates in order to fix the bugs and add quality of life, then it'll warrant another look. But until then, I think that the game is decent and worth $5 for sure, but doesn't stand up to some of the other major recent titles in the genre, such as Coromon, Monster Sanctuary, Cassette Beasts, or Nexomon. These are just my opinions, however, so make sure to let me know yours down below. And if you want to stay up to date on all things monster taming, this is definitely the place to be, so make sure to subscribe. And just wanted to quickly say special thanks to our supporters, especially Wrathful Beast, Nemo, Chronomon, Tragsoft, and Candy Marunci, and we'll see you next time. Peace.